So I found this in my sister's belongings. It says California's legislature from 2006. So it's almost 20 years ago. But it's probably, I'm guessing, not too much different. When you think of California, think of people filled with zest for a special kind of living in the freedom of the West. Think of swimmers, fishers, golfers, campers, backyard loafers too, using beaches, parks, and mountains, doing things folks love to do. When you think of California, think of industry and trade. Think of busy people working at the tasks where wealth is made. Think of prosperous ports and cities, personal income going higher, and the worker and seller sharing profits with the buyer. When you think of California, think of copious valleys green, with a promise of fulfillment that makes agriculture queen, where the vineyards, groves, and orchards are oases of delight, with a myriad of blossoms making perfume of the night. When you think of California, think of history rich in lore, Indian priest and 49er, and the bold conquistador, of wagon trains a-rolling to the tune of Clementine, and the roots of many cultures in the raisin and the wine. When you think of California, think of nature's generous hand. Mountains, deserts, beaches, redwoods, beautifying land. Primeval parks of wilderness, nature's archives of the past. Preserving for the future the beauty that should last. When you think of California, think of education's power. Think of well-trained labor ready for a task or leisure's hour. Think of schools for every purpose, with a challenge that's supreme, for a youth with opportunity to realize its dream. When you think of California, think of mighty works of man. Think of reservoirs and rivers in a classic water plan. Think of webs of towering bridges, gracefully spanning stream and bay, and the high lines wheeling power, making life an easier way. When you think of California, think of dusks as soft as down, with a neon fluorescence like a halo around each town. Think of gleaming streams of freeways, head and tail lights flowing by, and the green-red blinking air fleets purring smoothly through the sky. When you think of California, see the Capitol dome glow, brightly rising over deodars, so stately in a row. See the luminescent leaves above the lights throughout the park. Smell the jasmine and azaleas breathing a fragrance to the dark. California, California, are we always living true to the variant, rich reality of life we share in you? May we know that all our blessings are a trust from heaven's grace, and the way in which we use them show us worthy of this place. Charles Gus Garrigus, Poet Laureate of California, 1966 through 2000. California's longest serving Poet Laureate. Contents. Gallery of Presidents Pro Tempore. our speakers. Chapter 1. California's historical background. Mission San Diego de Alcala, California's first mission, founded in 1769 by Father Junipero Serra. Exploration and colonization. The discovery of the New World by Columbus ignited the aspirations of European powers and rekindled their efforts to find a westerly route to the Spice Islands of the Orient. Amerigo Vespucci and Magellan described the immense continent of South America, while John Cabot and others returned from North America without having found a northwest passage to the Indies. Enormous wealth wrested from Mexico by Cortez and from Peru by Pizarro called forth yet more exploration by land and sea for new riches, as well as for the Strait of Anian, fabled waterway to the treasures of the Orient. One expedition after another crept up the west coast of Mexico and around the peninsula of Baja California. On September 28, 1542, a half-century after the discovery of America, a Portuguese navigator sailing under the Spanish flag set foot on the most southerly part of what is now the state of California. Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo had discovered San Diego Bay, which he named San Miguel. This expedition of 2 small ships proceeded up the coast as far north as Point Reyes, claiming the land for Spain, but returned with neither stories of wealth nor clues to a western passage. On June 17, 1579, the Golden Hind, laden with booty taken from the Spanish, anchored at an inlet north of San Francisco. Sir Francis Drake took possession of this land in the name of the English Queen, Elizabeth, and called the country Nova Albion, Albion being an archaic and poetic name for England. In 1595, seeking ports of refuge and resupply for the Manila galleons, Sebastian Rodriguez Cermeno sighted what he called Cape Mendocino and later anchored the San Agustin in a bay somewhat north of San Francisco. On November 30th, a storm dashed the ship against the shore, and Cermeno and his men set out in an open launch for Acapulco, charting the California coastline as they went. In 1602, Sebastian Vizcaino, a merchant rather than a mariner, set sail with specific instructions to explore the Pacific coastline as far north as Cape Mendocino. In November, Vizcaino entered the bay previously discovered by Cabrillo and renamed it San Diego, but he then proceeded north and 1 month later anchored in the Bay of Monterey, which he named after a viceroy of New Spain, the Count de Monterey. His description of the port of Monterey as one of the finest along the coast encouraged continued Spanish interest in California. Contemporary names of many coastal features are attributed to this voyage. colonization and development in the northwestern provinces of New Spain, northwest Mexico, eclipsed further interest in California. Serious attention was not given the area by the Spanish until the 1760s, when British and Russian interests began explorations into the North Pacific. An order was sent to the Viceroy of New Spain to investigate the Russian danger, but he was not told to colonize California. He transmitted this order to the Visitador General, Jose de Galvez, and it was this officer who really determined that Alta California should be settled. Under the direction of Galvez, a venture combining land and sea expeditions undertook to establish a base at San Diego, with the further intent of securing the port of Monterey as a presidio. In July 1769, Gaspar de Portola and Father Junipero Serra, leaders of the Second Galvez land expeditions, established a presidio and the mission of San Diego de Alcala. The following year, Portola founded the presidio of Monterey and the mission of San Carlos. The Spanish approach to colonial development consisted of the creation of missions for the Christianization and, quote, civilization of the Native American inhabitants, presidios primarily to protect the missions and to guard against foreign aggression, and pueblos established as an inducement for citizens to settle in the new country. 20 missions were founded, extending in a chain along the California coastline, northward from San Diego to San Rafael. The presidios were situated at strategic points along the coast, generally at the entrances to ports, and the pueblos were located adjacent to the missions and presidios. Spanish rule continued until 1822, when Mexico won her independence from Spain, and California became a province of Mexico. The remote and fragile Mexican government, beset with internal problems, displayed little interest in and even less understanding of the problems of this distant region. Ineffective political control of the province led to the disruption of already attenuated institutions. Many of the missions were separated from their agricultural holdings. The military shuffled loosely under northern and southern commands, and civil and military authorities clashed over jurisdiction. Into this troubled atmosphere came foreign settlers, such as the Swiss, John Sutter, and the pioneers from the United States, who traversed the Sierra seeking land in the valleys. Throughout this period, coastal trade with British and Russian fur traders and merchants steadily increased. With its crumbling internal order and concomitant vulnerability to foreign interests, California rapidly drew the attention of the United States government. In 1835, President Andrew Jackson tried unsuccessfully to purchase part of California from Mexico. The following year, California's Governor Alvarado issued a pronouncement regarding the province's independence. This proclamation raised the possibility of Russian or British intervention on California's behalf. Under President James K. Polk, America's westward expansion manifest destiny now faced the possibility of British control of the Pacific coast. Government explorers were dispatched to California, and the United States Pacific Fleet kept close watch. Rumors of war, fears of American domination by native Californians, and the dissatisfaction of immigrant settlers with Mexican rule finally exploded into open hostility, culminating in the Bear Flag Revolution. The Bear Flag Revolution. On the morning of June 14, 1846, a group of American settlers, numbering from 32 to 35, unaware that a state of war existed between the United States and Mexico, captured General Mariano G. Vallejo, Mexican comandante from Northern California, and took possession of the pueblo of Sonoma. William B. Ide, with the approval of the group, issued what has come to be known as Ide's Proclamation, the substance of which was to proclaim California independent of Mexico, under the title California Republic. The United States and Mexico had been at war since May 1846, but the news did not reach California until several weeks later. On July 7th, 1846, American Marines and seamen under the command of Commodore John D. Sloat raised the American flag over the port of Monterey, and a courier was dispatched to San Francisco, where 2 days later Commander John B. Montgomery took possession of San Francisco for the United States. On the same day, July 9th, the Bear Flag was lowered at Sonoma by Lieutenant Joseph Warren Revere, the grandson of the revolutionary patriot Paul Revere, and the Stars and Stripes unfurled in its stead. Thus ended the Bear Flag Revolution, less than 4 weeks after its beginning. The admission of California. California was admitted into the Union on September 9th, 1850, as a free state, and without ever having been a territory. This great national and historical event was the result of a peculiar situation due partly to the tremendous increase in population in California within a year's time, caused by the gold rush of 1848 through 1849, and to a compromise made by Congress in the Clay Omnibus Bill, which, among other items, included the admission of California as a state. The debates in Congress on the admission of California were intense and prolonged. The first compromise resolution by Henry Clay was introduced in the United States Senate on January 29, 1850, and President Zachary Taylor presented copies of California's Constitution to Congress on February 13th. Many amendments, motions, proposals, and compromise offers were submitted and rejected. The principal objections raised by opponents to the admission of California were to its acceptance as a free state, the extensiveness of its boundaries, the irregularity of the manner in which its constitution was framed, its failure to have served a probationary period as a territory, and the fact that many of its residents were not citizens of the United States. On March 11, 1850, President Zachary Taylor's message transmitting the Constitution of California was before the United States Senate for consideration. During the heated debate of the question, William H. Seward, then a senator from New York, speaking in favor of the admission of California to the Sisterhood of States, used as poetic and descriptive words. California, that comes from the clime where the west dies away into the rising east. California, which bounds at once the empire and the continent. California, the youthful queen of the Pacific, in her robes of freedom, gorgeously inlaid with gold, is doubly welcome. In the same eloquent speech, the distinguished senator uttered these prophetic words: "The unity of our empire hangs on the decision of this day." After weeks of tiresome deadlock and caustic debate, the bill admitting California into the Union was passed by the Senate on August 13, 1850, and by the House of Representatives on September 7th. 2 days later, on September 9th, 1850, President Millard Fillmore, who had succeeded to the presidency upon the death of President Taylor, signed the bill, and California became the 31st state in the Union. The following is a facsimile of the act providing for the admission of California into the Union. So, I feel like it's going to take me a while staring at this because the writing is really blurry. But I could read cursive though. In this, oh, it's so blurry. But I'll continue reading this document here in the next video. Oh, there's another one there. But yeah, so I'll continue reading these in the next video. Hope you enjoyed that. And yeah, continue reading this in another video. Hope that helped you fall asleep a little bit. California's legislature from 2006. Yeah, hope that helped you fall asleep a little bit. And yeah, thank you for watching my videos and subscribing and commenting and liking and everything. Hope I helped you fall asleep a little bit.